Hey everyone, TJB Chris here. Welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 in, I guess, what is unofficially the quest for 8 megabytes on the Model 16B. In the last video, you saw I put together the 8 meg SRAM board and the MMU board, and when I took the 68,000 shortboard CPU card out, it needs some upgrades to be able to run XENIX 3.2 with the PAL upgrade, without a patch. The current version of XENIX that was on this actually was patched so it didn't require the PAL and wouldn't use burst mode. But we're going to alleviate that, and then we can do the 8 megs. So the first thing I've done here is I've put an unpatched copy of XENIX on it. I want to show you what happens here if I try and boot the machine with that image in its current state. And this is unmodified shortboard, does not support burst mode. And so I've got my XENIX boot prompt, and let's just hit the enter key. And there you go. New PAL hardware change required, bug halt. And that's what happens on this machine if you try and do it. So the board is unmodified. There are 4 modifications that we have to do to this board to get this ready. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put this back in the machine without the new RAM upgrades that we've built and make sure that this boots. If this boots, then we are good to go to try out the SRAM and MMU cards, which will be in a subsequent video. Break this up and take it one step at a time. Why not do it all at once, you wonder? Well, if I try to boil the ocean and anything goes wrong, I've got a lot of unwinding to do to figure out where the problem is. So the wise move is to take your change in slow chunks. So that's exactly what we're going to do tonight. All right, let's get that board out and take a look at the modification we need to do. So here is our kit, and we'll go through each of the requisite pieces. We have our instructions. I'll talk about, okay, I'm in the shadow there. We'll talk about the 4 things that we have to do here to modify this board to allow it to use the burst mode and XENIX 3 without patching it. We have our CPU card here, and then we have our kit, which consists of 2 PALs to be upgraded, a 330 picofarad ceramic cap, some jumper wire, and a ground strap, which actually we're going to double check, but I don't think I have to do because I think the grounding upgrade is actually done, but we're going to double check that that's correct. And bourbon. We have bourbon. The bourbon is for later. It's either to drown my sorrows or celebrate success. Let's hope for the latter. And I will shout out without calling out a member of the community who was nice enough to provide me with the burst mode upgrade parts, particularly the PALs and the hookup wire and stuff. The bourbon I already had, and so, you know, we're good there. But this was a very nice little donation. I really appreciate it and appreciate the help and the guidance. So let's hope I don't screw this up. Let's take a look at that 6 megahertz board, shall we? Okay, so first things first, U48 is a PAL swap. That's pretty straightforward. Then what we're going to do, we actually have to replace U36, but we have to bend pin 5 up, and that's because it's going to jump to another location on the board. It's actually going to jump to U25 pin 9. But instead of just bending that up, I'm going to put a socket in. And the reason I'm going to do that is the PAL that I'm going to be putting in is for the Radio Shack memory boards. The 8 megabyte MMU and SRAM combination have their own PAL, which is incompatible with the Radio Shack boards. So I'm going to hope that I can put the socket in here, and that way I can swap them out without having to resolder the jumper. If I have any problems, the first thing to go is going to be the socket, because some people have said this can be a little treacherous. So if it's unreliable, doesn't work, whatever, I'll deal. And honestly, once the 8 meg board's tested out, it'll probably be permanent enough I don't have to keep the socket. But that's what we're doing. All right, on the solder side of the board, solder side, solder side, depends on where you're from, we have, I'll turn this the other way, we have a cut that we'll be doing right in this general area. And we'll get closer. Now we have a ground strap that has to be installed, and that looks like it is already installed. So I'm going to double check the location of this, but I may have gotten away with it with the ground strap already being done. I find it interesting that this mod was done, but I wonder if they would do this mod in service. If anybody knows, please comment or hit me up on Discord. I'd love to know why I have just this particular mod. Additionally, we've got some jumps to do. We have the jump from U36 over to U25 pin 9, which I noted. We also have a jump from U9 pin 4 to U33 pin 13. We have a 330 picofarad cap, which actually we already have that too. That's interesting. We have the 330 PF cap. Interesting. I actually had a cap left floating around that I brought out, but it's interesting that we have that. That is actually connected to the ground end of C43, which you can see it is, and to the feed through near the 5-volt end of C37, which is where it's jumped. Okay. We have to reconfigure the jumper E1, E2. That's what it has to be closed. And that's pretty much it. There's some other technical bulletins we'll have to double check, which actually might be, some of these may have come in with some of those. But that's pretty much it. So actually, the cap is done for me. So we're talking about a PAL with a pin up, a couple of jumps, and a trace cut. I will say the instructions I was given and some of the pictures and stuff, if I can't do this, I really shouldn't be doing this. So here we go. All right, I think I have everything I need now. I'm hoping I'm not going to show up in the shot too much, my shoulder and everything. I'm kind of off camera, but I'm trying a slightly better angle than last time. I know it wasn't a great angle. So hopefully I'm not effing this up too much. So let's start with the easy one. We're going to remove U48 and just swap U48 in, because you know what? Let's take the easy victories. All right, there's U48. Let's get the new U48 and put that in. Pins lined up, pins lined up. Okay. Wow, I feel successful already. All right, let's get U36 out and get the socket in. U36 removed. Now, this is not exactly going in. Instead, its socket will go in. And so I've already bent up, I don't know if you can see it, pin 5. We'll see how this feels like it connects. Feels like it connects okay. I feel like I get a connection. Okay, so before I put that in, no, because now I'm feeling it in there, I don't have much room to work with. So I'm going to pull it back out, and we'll do the soldering on the jumper before we put it back in the socket. Okay, but I'm at least reasonably confident that we're going to at least have a chance at a good connection. So let's focus on that. Let's get ourselves, I'm going to measure out some hookup wire, and we're going to figure out, strip it, and this is going to go from U36 pin 5, which is bent up, over to U25 pin 9. All right, there we are. We're all jumped. I'm pretty happy with this. I got the length pretty well right. It's nicely run along. That's hopefully in frame. Pin 9 there on U25, right? Yes, U25. And that is U28, and that's pin 5. I just bent it up, and I soldered it before I put the socket in. So now we're pretty good there. It's nice and solid. I figured I wouldn't bore you with the details. I can't get the camera at a good enough angle to let you see what I'm doing. So rather than have you just look at my, look at my shoulder the whole time. All right, next up, BERR BERR modification. We're going to jump U9 pin 4 to U33 pin 13. So that's from here down to here. Those of you who know the TB very well, I'm skipping step A for now. We'll do it next, but taking a knife to this is my scariest part. You'd think it'd be the soldering, but no. All right, let's do that. Let's get this jumped, and when that goes well, we'll move on from there. All right, there we go. I hope I got that. So there is U33, pin 15, and this is pin 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, up on U9. And we have a nice connection. I got it nicely run. I'm actually pretty happy with this. All right. This is the worst part of this because this is the part I can't undo. This is the part where if I F it up, I F it up. So I have a small utility knife. I'm going to make a cut on this board. I can't believe I'm doing this, but it's got to be done. All right, here's what we have next. There's a solder pad. So I don't know if you can see right at the top of my thumb here. Hopefully the camera's focusing. There's this pad right here, and to the right of it is a trace, and it runs down between these two, all the way down here, down to this pad. So I have to cut this. So I'm going to hit it with the meter now, and you're going to see that it works, and then we're going to use the meter to do it. Now, a lot of folks cut it up here. I don't think I have the surgical precision for that, so I'm going to cut it here. But I'm going to test this first, and we'll prove it out. So let's just get the old meter in beeper mode. I don't have to be too fancy here. It just has to show that it works. And we're going to boop-a-doop-a-doo. And we're connected. Alright, actually I'll just leave this on. What the hell am I doing? We're going to need it in like 2 seconds anyway. Alright, and moment of truth. This feels so unnatural. If there is a God, may he save my soul. And the God of Charles Tandy and every person that worked on these and built these. Bless me now, God of TRS-80, for this is an undoable thing. I think I got it. Gotta help me. I mean, I guess if I got the wrong one, I can jump it, but that would be a real rookie mistake, right? It's open. Okay, yeah, it's open. Okay. There it is. Okay. Hey boy, I gotta tell you. Woo! For those of you that do this all the time, but for people like me, this is a thing, and it feels like sacrilege taking a knife to a almost 40-year-old PCB for a machine that isn't always the easiest to find in the first place, especially in working form. But you know, what the hell, live and learn. All right, what do we got next here? All right, so we've done remove the old PAL, new PAL, pin 5 bent up socket. Oh, let's put that PAL in. Okay, U36, let's put you in. Funny, I would have put it in, it wouldn't have worked, and I would have wondered why. Okay, the notch is lined up, in it goes. Okay, PAL's installed. Okay, now, U36 is done. Old PAL's out, pin 5's up, new's in, jump U36 pin 5 over to U25 pin 9. Okay, right there. Okay, BERR modification, solder side, cut the trace, done. Ugh. Jump U9 pin 4 to U33 pin 13, which is right over here. Okay, new PAL U48, notch lines up. Page 2. By the way, I don't normally advocate printing the internet, but in this case it was necessary. Okay, so these are the ones that should actually be done, and this is a 330 picofarad capacitor from the ground end of C43 to the feed through near the 5 volt end of C37. This feed through is hooked to TP28, and that is right here. So right by C37 is a feed through, and it is connected to the other end of C43 on the ground end. So we're good there. And then on the back side of the board, it says attach a ground strap jumper. Now this is stranded wire, and this is not. So if this doesn't work, we're going to have to revisit that. From the ground end of C29 over to, I lost where I was reading, the ground end of C28. So let's take a look at those. Those look like grounds. C29 is here, and C28 is here. I think we're good. Configure the jumper, the refresh jumper E1, E2 to E1, E2. E2 is the middle pin, and we're already there. Reassemble and try to boot with XENIX 3.0. Okay, let's see how this goes. All right, it's the moment of truth. I have my Celebration or Sorrows bourbon here. The Fred card is in. I've got a fan pointed into the back because with all the cards in there, and I've got the cover open. We're just going to see what happens. So power on. Okay. Smoke check. All right, there's no smoke, no fire. We have a boot prompt. Ooh, Fred, don't freeze on me. Did I do it? Big bucks, no whammies, no whammies. Is this Fred or is this me? It's maybe me. Now, no, well that's Fred. This may be my socket, which if it is, I'll... revisit. Okay. It is not working. So the first place we're going to go is I'm going to pull the PAL, I'm going to bend the pin up, and we're going to solder the pin directly. Alright, let's give it a start now. I know I said we were going to do the socket, but I had a hunch. So let's see what we get this time, and hope my hunch was right and the Fred doesn't screw me on this too. Okay. Hey! Alright. So actually, my problem was a loose cable. I didn't have one of the ribbon cables tight. This is the unpatched version of XENIX 3.2 booting on my 6 MHz shortboard with a PAL upgrade. So I actually got it right. Let's just give it today's date. Today is 23/03/02. Oops, and it's 2017 in time. 2017. Did I type that right? I kind of did it by sight. I did. All right, so the 68,000 board is working. I didn't do it wrong, and I didn't do it wrong. So cheers to that. I love bourbon. Okay, so now that this thing is working, and this is a stock image, so I'm just going to log in as root. I won't have my password or any of the stuff I moved into the old image that you saw in previous videos. But the machine is functioning. So now what we have to do in the next video, I'm going to take out the PAL chip that came with this upgrade for the Radio Shack boards, mark it as such, and then we are going to install the new cards, which we'll just take another look at here, because obviously you need to see what these look like again. So, to refresh the Quartz memory, we have the SRAM board, the 8 meg SRAM board that I built, again by Tandy Emeritus with these great handles. Look at it, beautiful handles, you know, easy access because this sits further in than the card cage will allow you to get, so you've got nice handles. And we have the MMU card, which will go on top of the CPU board and allow it to access all 8 megs because it adds an additional bit. It's a nice 3-bit MMU. So, that's going to do it. We actually have a successful memory upgrade. We actually have a successful PAL upgrade. This is now burst mode enabled and booting the unpatched version of XENIX 3.2. I took a knife to a very delicate old piece of electronics and I didn't fudge it up. And for those of you that do this all the time, my celebration may seem unwarranted, but for a self-taught mofo from nowhere, I'm really excited that I did this without screwing it up. I mean, it was basic following instructions, but there's more to it than that, and I really, really, really appreciate it. Also, thank you again to my donor, who I don't want to call out on the internet to send the floodgates his way. But thank you for the parts. I really, really appreciate it, and the direction, and this has been great. I can't believe I actually did this without having to ask for help. So, woohoo. All right, until next time, when we take a look at the SRAM and MMU and run the diagnostics on that, this is TJB Chris thanking you for watching and telling you to stay classy.